here's how most students are going to build their college list. Most students are going to look at two things. They're going to be looking at ranking, right? So when they Google best college for engineering, the schools that they're going to be looking at is the top ranked, often by US News and World Report, colleges for engineering. And then they're going to have a couple safety schools. So safety schools are going to tend to be schools that are within an hour or two of their home. They know they can get into, and they know a couple other people that are applying there. Stanford just issued an awesome statement about how fit is so much more important than ranking, and it's one of the few truly honest documents I've seen on this topic in a while, so I'm going to attach it below in resources. But ultimately, when students are building their list, they're going to end up with a few very high, what I call fiver schools, right? 5E League. They accept about 5% of the kids who apply there: Harvard, Stanford, Yale, Princeton. Such a small percentage can actually get in there, but such a high percentage are applying, which is exactly what those colleges want. Every college in the country wishes that they could have a 5% acceptance rate. That's the goal for every really all 3,000 of the accredited colleges in our country. For a college to get there, they have to make sure that students feel very comfortable applying. They feel like they're a top-ranked school. The issue, of course, is that students will keep applying to these schools, and by the sheer numbers, 95% are not going to get in, and has nothing to do with whether you're the best student. Colleges can't pick out who are the best and the smartest. They can look at SAT scores to get a good idea of how quickly you learn, and that certainly gives you a much better shot of getting into an Ivy League, but it's not going to guarantee anything. Now, on the other end of the college list, you've got the safety schools. And the problem with these schools is these are schools that your student is a very common type of student to be applying there, right? They have the same test scores as everyone else who's applying there. They're from the same part of the state or the region. And there's nothing really that makes them stick out at those colleges. So they'll get accepted there, but the issue is they're not really special at that school. So there's no reason for the colleges to pay them to entice them to come there. So that's what a standard college list that I see often looks like. It's got a couple 5E Leagues, right? 5% acceptance rate, Harvard, Stanford, Yale, and then it's got a lot of safety schools, and then there's really nothing in between. Families would be a lot happier if instead of focusing on the top 5 colleges in the country, they focused on the top 500 colleges in the country. And by doing that, they're not just going to have an astronomically better chance of getting in, but they're going to have a lot better chance of being truly special at that school and getting good financial aid from that college. You need to know how to pick colleges strategically, and you need to know how to do that because, frankly, colleges are picking students very strategically. Strategic enrollment management has become a big business, and ultimately, colleges are hiring professional firms to help them be educated on what types of students they need to be accepting to get the graduation rates that they want, to be getting the retention rates that they want. They're looking at this from a big data lens. So you as a family also need to look at this from a big data perspective. Is your student in the top 25% of SAT or ACT test scores? Is your student unique at that college? And importantly, is this a college that fits your family's EFC? So here's how we are going to build your list. This is what I want you to be able to do on your own so that you know that the list that you have is one that is going to pay your family. And it's okay if you keep a couple of your original colleges that you really loved from your original list. I just want to make sure that you have some that are very strategically chosen, if only to be able to do appeals on financial aid on the back end. So when we build your list, the number one thing that we're going to be paying attention to is we want to make sure that you are in the top 25% of the learning curve at that college. How do you tell that? Good old-fashioned SAT and ACTs. And I know this is not a popular answer. Nobody wants to hear that colleges still care so much about SAT and ACTs. But trust me, you are going to get better money for college when you are in the top 25% of test scores at those schools. For our purposes, let's call those green schools, schools you're really going to get money at. You want your list to be mostly green schools, schools where you are going to be bringing up the average at that college. Those are the schools where you can really get good merit aid. Then we have to look at how generous those schools truly are with merit aid to their top students. So is their average merit aid that they give out each year, is it $2,000 a year? Is it $500 a year? Or is it a healthy $15,000 a year? Because remember, merit aid or money that comes from the school is renewable for all 4 years. So a $15,000 a year merit aid award is actually worth $60,000 because you get it for all 4 years. That's why I say we want to focus on money from the college versus individual scholarship programs.